Good morning, everyone. Waiting on Facebook up there. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, Instagram. How is everyone today? Good morning. Well, it's 9:14. I'm a minute early. Sorry about that. I'll give you guys a second to catch up with me. So, did many of you start school yesterday? I think most of the country starts after Labor Day anyway, but here in Arizona, we start the first week of August. So, my kids start tomorrow. I think a lot of kids started yesterday here in Arizona, all online. Trying to manage that as a parent has been interesting. I'm a little nervous for it tomorrow, to be honest. I can't imagine that my children are going to sit in front of a computer for 8 hours straight watching lectures. That's kind of what I had to do in medical school, sitting in lectures all day, and it was certainly hard at times for an adult. I can't imagine that it's going to be easy for these children without their usual kids to chit-chat with and share smiles with and walk around the halls with, but I guess we'll see. So I may be a little bit flustered this week trying to manage it all, but hey, I guess sometimes we just have to let go of the control and just give in to whatever the moment is. And so that is what I'm going to do. So anyway, today I'm actually revisiting a topic. I did do a live on dehydration when I started these lives, which I think was in March or April. And but a lot of you didn't see it. Not many of you were joining at that time. And I do think it's an important topic right now because particularly here, I know here in the Southwest, it is blazing hot and most of my patients have been complaining of headaches. My son goes outside to play and comes in and he's feeling, headachy and nauseous and things like that. And a lot of that has to do with dehydration. So I thought today would be a good time to do a little recap on what is dehydration, how much water should you be drinking so that you guys can start working on the goal of making sure that you're getting enough hydration and then continuing that. And I know I probably mentioned this before, but I probably went 10 years of my life completely dehydrated, if not longer. I just have never been or had never been a water drinker. And, so I think I probably, this is 32 ounces, right? I probably maybe drank that a day. And the rule of thumb is twice your body or half your body weight in ounces. So a 200-pound person needs at least 100 ounces. So if you're only drinking 32 ounces a day, right, unless you're 64 pounds, which I'm not, that's simply not enough. So even the rule of thumb, like 8-ounce glasses, well, that's only 64 ounces, which for somebody like me is enough because that would cover about, 130-pound person or so, 125, 130-pound person. But I think the average weight in America is well above that. So I think we need to start looking at more the rule of thumb of half your body weight in ounces as opposed to 8-ounce glasses, right? And on top of that, who's going to refill their water glass 8 times, right? This is a habit that you have to create. So I'm going to talk to you about what I did to correct my dehydration. And I can tell you the first benefit that I saw when I actually routinely started drinking enough water was energy. I got energy. And I don't think people think about that. With dehydration, they think, oh, watch your urination, dry mouth. But energy is huge. I would say fatigue is a very, very common complaint of dehydration. Why? Because water provides oxygen, right? It provides oxygen to our cells. It hydrates us. It plumps up our cells. And we talked about yesterday, the healthier the cell, the more plump the cell, the better the nutrient absorption, right? So if you have dehydrated, shriveled little cells, you're not going to take in the minerals and water the best that you can. So the whole goal is to provide your body with the nutrients that it needs to be well, right? And water is absolutely up there. I have a question, does coffee count? No, it doesn't. In fact, for every cup of coffee, you got to add another glass of water. Okay? So, I'm drinking water today instead of coffee, although I did have my coffee. It's empty in my doctor mug. Yeah, I'm not 64 pounds, right? No, I'm 6 feet tall, so 64 pounds on someone who's 6 feet tall would be crazy. But yeah, that's what I thought when I was younger, because I was only drinking about 32 ounces a day. So now I'm drinking about 64 ounces a day. I know you're kidding, Sue. I gotcha. But a lot of people do ask that question. Does coffee count? Do other drinks count? They always count, but I don't count them into the base. So for example, like if I have a sparkling water and it's 8 ounces, I don't count that towards my minimum. That's like just a bonus. I still do minimum of water, my minimum of water. And then if I drink anything beyond that, great, right? Okay. Yeah, people are asking about Gatorade, lots of questions, right? I'm not a huge fan of Gatorade. I see its needs sometimes acutely if somebody has been out in the sun and they're really like exhausted and they're not hydrated and they need a quick replete. I can understand it. Having it as a staple, probably not. Better to have a better mineral supplement going in there. Best water, that we could debate that all day long. I prefer pure water. I mean, I use RO, but I also take minerals throughout the day to replenish the minerals lost. So I have a friend who wants me to look into a different water system now. So there's always new water systems coming in, and I'm trying to learn them just as fast as you guys, okay? I'm being asked about adding sodium to water, chlorine levels are high. I'll try to address all this, and then I'm going to dive into the topic. Anytime that electrolytes on labs are off, you should always consider dehydration. Doesn't mean it always is, okay? But you should always consider it. So if your sodium is high, chlorate is high, potassium is low, high, if any of those electrolytes are off balance, you always have to consider dehydration. So ask, am I drinking enough water? If your answer is no, try that first. See if those numbers correct, okay? I am not someone who buys into any type of water. I know you guys are going to ask me about this the whole time. Alkaline water, RO water, best water. I want water, right? And ideally not with a lot of chemicals in it, right? But if you have proper hydration, why do we need to water is naturally alkaline. So if it's not, I want to know maybe the source isn't good. So there's a lot of debate on a lot of those. And honestly, I think I could sit and debate with people all day long. And I don't know that we'd ever come to an actual conclusion as to what is the best water. But I can tell you, generalized water, just clean, purified, or filtered water will get you hydrated. Okay, so we're going to focus on that, and then each of you have different health backgrounds, different imbalances. So if your doctor's recommending different types of water for you specifically, then do your research on it, check it out, but make sure you're drinking enough of it. That's the point of today. We don't drink enough water. I mean, how many of you can say with 100% certainty that you're drinking a minimum of half your body weight in ounces a day? Right? I even still struggle with it. I'm much better with it now than I used to be, but it's still a struggle. And I find if I don't drink this first one in the morning, like before 11 o'clock, it'll be very hard for me to hit my minimum. But if I drink a whole one early in the morning, I tend to do better with keeping up through it throughout the day. Okay. Cool? I'll come back to some of these questions at the end as well. A lot of them are along the same lines. You're welcome, Sue. No problem. Does Piggy stay hydrated? She does. And she was actually stung by a scorpion yesterday. Hardly noticed. When I was stung by a scorpion, it was miserable. She was just like, oh, well, whatever. She's fine. She's back there chewing her bone. So, David, I don't know what to tell you there. I'm hosting a show, so I kind of have to use my own words. So anyway, all right, so I want to talk about good morning, Carrie, what is dehydration? So dehydration, I think most of you can agree, it's when you lose more water than it needs to function properly, okay? And we do require a lot of water per day. The range of dehydration can be vast. It could be anything from a very mild level dehydration, which to be honest is what I find in most people and what I found in myself. I don't usually find a lot of chronically dehydration, although I had a patient once who did not drink any water and was told she had kidney failure, and we increased her water to normal amounts, and within a week she was no longer in kidney failure. She wasn't actually in kidney failure, but her levels were so off because she was so dehydrated. So I have seen it. Most of the time, I see people with a really mild dehydration and not recognizing necessarily that their symptom that they have is from dehydration. Like I mentioned, fatigue is a very common report from dehydration, as well as nausea and vomiting. Older adults tend to become more dehydrated than younger adults. I think anyone who's cared for a parent or a grandparent, it's really hard to keep them hydrated. And when they're not hydrated well, often you can see a lot of signs of dementia. Makes sense, because you don't have enough water in there. We don't have enough oxygen floating around, right? So how long does it take to rehydrate? I get that question a lot, right? If you're dehydrated, how long does it take? Really depends on the extent of it. And there's no rule of thumb to this. So you could think about someone who's just mildly dehydrated for a few days versus somebody who's been mildly dehydrated for 10 years, right? They're gonna have a different level to get to hydration. So that's an important thing to recognize. It could take anything from a single few days to a couple weeks. For me, being so chronically dehydrated for such a long period of time, I would say it probably took me about 2 weeks before I started to say, wow, I'm really noticing a difference from this. And now I recognize it a lot faster. So if I don't hit my minimum a day, I can already feel it, and I'm able to rehydrate pretty quickly. So if you get in the habit of it, it's a healthy habit to have, and you'll recognize it more often. Some of these symptoms that I see most commonly in people that are mildly chronic dehydrated: fatigue, without a doubt. Okay? Without a doubt. I would say muscle cramps, people with restless leg syndrome, random muscle cramps, achy, just kind of feeling like not quite, moving enough, like stiff. Headaches for sure, usually mild, but headaches are very common. We see right now in Arizona a lot of people with headaches, right? I mean, it's almost impossible to stay perfectly hydrated in this heat. It really is. I mean, we've been at like 117 degrees, right? It's very hot. We don't have the moisture in the air. So we don't get that. Compared to other areas that are also ridiculously hot, they also have moisture. We don't have that. It's very dry. We don't sweat real well here in Arizona because it evaporates before we even get it out. So we don't always have we don't only recognize how dehydrated we are. Skin can become flushed. Sometimes I see thirst. I actually find people who have a mild dehydration sometimes say they're not thirsty. By the time you get thirsty, you're pretty dehydrated. So I would definitely just make it a point of drinking your minimum. 2 that a lot of people may not recognize. Irritability. So being snappy, kind of impatient, those can be signs of dehydration because you don't have enough oxygen going to the cells, your body doesn't feel great, you're tired, you just kind of feel out of it, right? Another one is feeling like you're getting sick. Primarily, I see sore throat, stuffy nose. Kind of like it doesn't progress enough to become what appears to be a bacterial infection or sinus infection, but it's almost like there's a little bit of redness and dryness in the back of the throat and some dryness in the nose. I see that a lot, and a lot of people think it's allergies, and they find when they bring the water up, the symptom goes away. So that's one to pay attention to, especially if it doesn't progress to anything, it just stays at that level, okay? Now, by the time you get to severe dehydration, I think most of you would probably recognize these symptoms, right? Dizziness, confusion, dark colored urine, very dry skin, fainting, rapid breathing, rapid heart rate, okay? Those are things that happen when you're more severely dehydrated. I want to go back down to, now I want to talk about blood pressure for a second too, considering cardiovascular disease and hypertension are very prevalent in our society. And a lot of these reasons are very small elevations in blood pressure where you're put on a medication. Please keep in mind that if you have a mild dehydration, that can impact your blood pressure, okay? At an extreme level of dehydration, it will drop your blood pressure because the blood volume drops. But most of us aren't in that severe state. We're in this mild state. And in the mild state, you actually can see increases in the blood pressure. Why? Because hydration impacts sodium levels. Okay, so the body may upregulate the sodium a little bit to try to draw more water into the cell. The water isn't there, diverts blood around the body, up goes the blood pressure. So if you have mild changes in your labs, your electrolytes, you have mild changes in your blood pressure, first thing to always consider is, am I drinking enough water? Okay, make sure you're drinking enough water. Okay? Let's see, I have a couple things I'm skipping over. I do have an article on this at drpingel.com. I linked it on Facebook and Instagram. It's there as well. You know, I've seen hydration cause chest pain. Now, granted, anytime you have chest pain, it's a potential medical emergency, right? So always take true assessment. But I'm just letting you know, I have seen that happen. I've seen dehydration cause heart palpitations. I've seen it cause chest pain. So obviously, if you're having chest pain, you need to assess a doctor. But do realize if you're chronically dehydrated, you might be more likely to that symptom. So something to consider. If they've ruled out heart attack or any other etiology, you might want to take a look at your water consumption. So kids, same thing. Kids need less water, but still a good amount of water, right? So you can watch those kids, especially in the summer, okay? So let's talk about some ways that you can stay hydrated. Hello, everyone. I have many people saying hello and making comments, just trying to keep up with you all. Moving along. A lot of people with nausea, migraine. Yeah, that definitely can be hydration. Is it possible to drink too much water? You know, I'm told it is. I'm sure it is. I don't find it commonly. Yeah, lots of good. Thank you guys I've gotten vertigo from it. Absolutely. Dizziness. Absolutely. In fact, I do have a lot of people ask me about vertigo. I think one of you out there asked for an article about vertigo, which I do still have in the pipeline, but vertigo is a tough one because you really have to find the cause, and hydration is very much involved with that. So if you have vertigo and you're not drinking enough water, that's where I would start, right? And it's always an assessment. The problem with vertigo is you have to really look for the cause, and there are so many potential causes, it could take a very long time just to find that cause. But if you're persistent, you'll find it. So let's talk about how to stay hydrated. Okay, number one, of course, drink enough water, right? So half your body weight in ounces minimum. So a 200-pound person needs 100 ounces of water a day minimum. 150-pound person would need 75 minimum, right? Piggy dropped her bone. So make sure you're drinking at least that of water, okay? Tea, sparkling water, coffee, whatever, that doesn't count. Okay, I want your minimum in actual water. Anything beyond that, great. Okay, do realize that anytime you have, but very good, everyone. Everyone's like, half your ounces of water, half your body weight in ounces. Yes. Do realize that if you drink coffee, that's dehydrating, right? If you drink alcohol, that's dehydrating. So you're going to have to add another thing of water on top of that. So my rule of thumb is get half your body weight in ounces minimum. And then anytime you drink a dehydrating drink, replace that with, so if you do 8 ounces of coffee, you do 8 ounces of water, okay? 4-ounce glass of wine, or supposedly is a standard size glass of wine. My friends would say it's double that. But make sure if you do a 4-ounce glass of wine, you have a 4-ounce glass of water. Can you still be dehydrated if urine color is white? Yes, I've found there's more of a mild chronic dehydration where you're not so dehydrated that the concentration of your urine is changing. Constipation, big one. Big one if you're not drinking enough water. That is a symptom I see all the time. And people are taking laxatives, which removes more water from the body. So if you're someone who lends towards constipation, make sure you're drinking a ton of water. That's what we need to have a bowel movement. That's a great sign that maybe your water isn't there, but it might be enough to still produce a normal colored urine, okay? Forgot to mention that one earlier, okay? All right, number 2, especially in the summer months, have hydrating fruits around. Watermelon, grapefruit, grapes, those types of things. Foods that have a lot of hydration in them to begin with. Green leafy vegetables, cucumbers. I mean, you can go on the vegetable arena too. Plants, okay? Fruits and vegetables carry a lot of natural water component in addition to trace minerals inside those plants. The minerals help absorb the water. Plants, I cannot tell you enough how much they contribute to hydration. Very, very important. Once again, that's on top of your minimum that you're drinking now, okay? We're going to talk about coconut water. Actually, I'm coming to that next, Richard. Number 3, enjoy a glass of coconut water. Have any of you tried coconut water? One of my favorite someone asked earlier, I think it was Stephanie, about Gatorade. I would prefer coconut water over Gatorade. Having coconut water around is great. You know what else you can do for the kids? Make it into popsicles. So you could add a little bit of fruit juice with coconut water, put it in the, get your little popsicle molds and make a popsicle. Maybe Shay and I will make some popsicles for you someday. And then you can give them a popsicle to keep them hydrated. Sue, a lot of people don't like it. So here's my suggestion. You don't have to drink coconut water straight. You can put it in a popsicle. You can put it in a smoothie. You can add it to fruit juice. So you can cut the flavor a little bit. There are different brands and different flavors of coconut water. I suggest you try them all. There's some I like, some I don't. But a popsicle is always a great way, or adding it to smoothies, right? Or just simply taking shots of it as opposed to sipping on it. Sometimes you just gotta go for it. But if you're dehydrated, particularly let's say you've been out in the sun, playing sports or outside with kids, and you come in and you're really hot, coconut water can relieve you very quickly. So it's definitely one to have in your cabinet. That lends us into limiting time in the sun. Now, depending on where you are, this may not be relevant to you. Here in Arizona, we absolutely have to limit our time in the sun, especially in the summer. Between the hours of about 11 to 4, because it is blistering hot, and even just 10 minutes outside can dehydrate us pretty darn fast. Now, for some of you in different areas of the world, might not be the same. I never like to avoid the sun completely, because I do think there's a lot of value from the sun, vitamin D levels. I think it's great to be outside, put your feet in the grass. I think all of these things are so good for your mental health. So finding that balance is really important, but try not to extend extended periods of the sun if you're not rehydrating. Bring a coconut water Pepsicle, okay? And that's number 6, enjoy a popsicle. Now, it doesn't have to be coconut water popsicle. It could be other types of popsicles as well. I do have a recipe on my website, a homemade popsicle recipe. Check that out. But even if it's just a juice-based or maybe put a little bit of coconut water, there's so many different options. Crushed fruit. You could do watermelon popsicles. Watermelon's great in a popsicle, and it's great for the kids. It's just a different way to get hydration. And lastly, how about a smoothie? Right? You can stay hydrated with a smoothie because you can add pretty much anything to it. So that's always a way to kind of put some fruit in there, put some coconut water in there, put some minerals in there, and have a smoothie. So those are 7 ways that you can increase your hydration. Just to review though, base, half your body weight in ounces of actual water, and then add on top of that as needed with popsicles and smoothies and all sorts of stuff like that, okay? Very, very important, because dehydration can cause a lot of health problems. And as I said earlier with the patient that had been deemed with kidney disease, all it took was 1 week of her increasing her water, and that was reversed. It was a miracle, right? There's a lot of misdiagnoses that happen due to dehydration. Fatigue, if you've been labeled chronic fatigue, or you've gone to your doctor and said, I'm fatigued, and they're like, we don't find anything wrong with you. If they haven't asked you about hydration, that's something to consider, okay? I really noticed a benefit there. Skin, if your skin's dry, peeling, sometimes even acne and some of those other more oily conditions can be worse when you're dehydrated, because the body tries to overcompensate by producing more sebum. So I would say if you have a symptom that's unresolved, that you cannot find the cause for, and you're not drinking enough water, start with increasing your water intake. Assess after 2 weeks, see where you're at, okay? So anyway, I'm going to sign off for the day. I have to start setting up the computers for my kids' homeschooling tomorrow. I am doing my best to be here every day. I'm taking it day by day. I may need to cut my lives down for a couple weeks to only a few days a week. I'm not sure yet. I'm trying not to. Really depends on how much support my kids need. So I will keep you guys posted. But as of now, I will be here tomorrow with a new topic. And really happy you guys could all be here this morning. No idea what my topic's going to be tomorrow, but I do have a couple fun ideas. And I will do a Q&A this week as well. So start thinking about questions that you have. I see a lot of questions over on Facebook that I need to go back and answer. If I didn't already answer them, I will come back as I always do. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.